Howdy Sketchies, it's Megan of Hello North, and today we are going to take on the villainous art block. So that's the intro that I would have been using if I had finished editing my art block video. But yesterday, Sunday, in fact, I had just finished editing almost 2 weeks worth of footage and research for this video, and I saw that somebody had posted a video on art block in my subscription list. Now, I watch this person's videos all the time, and I really wanted to see what they had to say since I was, I guess, late to the party. And I didn't want to feel like I was copying exactly what they were going to be saying. So I watched their video, and then I watched the video that they were referring to in that video. Video Inception. After watching their videos, they came to the conclusion that art block doesn't exist. But yet the whole time that they were actually talking about art block and how they deal with it. Does it exist? Even if they say it doesn't, they were exactly talking about how they overcome it. I kind of wanted to put a little bit of a different spin on my original video, because my original video was just going to be a bunch of tips on how to overcome it. But I kind of wanted to break it down so that way you can identify what is an art block and how to overcome it. First off, I'm going to give you a little bit of my experience so that way I'm not just some random person throwing their opinion. I've been doing art for 22 years. I've been doing art since I was 8, doing contests and things like doing gallery work. And then when I turned about 15, 16, I started doing small freelance work, mostly for the school that I went to and maybe a couple other things. And then when I graduated high school, I took on more commission work and started, I guess you could say, calling myself a professional. So that means that I've been doing it for a really long time. When I was in high school, I was diagnosed with manic depression. It was a very hard time, and it really did affect everything that I did. I still struggle with it from time to time, but I've learned to overcome it and identify when I'm feeling that way. So that's my experience with art. I feel like I kind of have a lot of experience dealing with art blocks since I've been doing it for such a long time. First, we need to identify what an art block is. An art block is actually a spin on the term writer's block. Now, writer's block, the term has been around for a very long time, and it's defined as writer's block, a phenomenon that affects a person's creativity, whether that's through a creative slowdown or physically incapable of producing new work. Writer's block has actually been confirmed as a real condition, and they studied it in the 1970s and 1980s, and it affects all forms of writers. People who write novels, who write music, and people who write comics. So if it affects writers, couldn't the exact same definition affect artists? Yes, because we are both part of the creative group, and we both pull from the same part of our brain. For the rest of this video, instead of referring this to as writer's block or art block, I'm going to refer to it as creative block, because honestly, that's really what it is. Now, in my opinion, there's 3 types of creative block: mental, physical, and burnout. So the first branch of a creative block is mental, and that includes emotional distress, tragedy, and mental condition. Whatever you're feeling at the moment really affects what's going into your. So how can you overcome a mental creative block? Well, there's a lot of different ways to do it, and it kind of varies from person to person. A lot of artists, we put that emotion, that tragedy, into our art pieces. Now, they're not going to be masterpieces. Sometimes you create your best pieces in these emotional times, but it's okay if it's not perfect or if it's something that no one else is going to appreciate. It's a period in your life that you went through, so why not put it onto paper? Why not put it on a canvas? A lot of artists in the past have done this. Pablo Picasso is one of the most known artists to do this. He started out drawing happy pictures full of color, and slowly as he went through tougher times, his artwork got darker and more violent. And it wasn't because he was that kind of person, it's just that's what he put his emotions into. So if you're going through a mental creative block, put that back into your work. Now the second creative block is a physical creative block, and that is due to stress, or you're just physically incapable of producing work. Now stress is so important to know how to identify, especially after you've finished a large project. You don't even want to look at a canvas or a laptop or a pen. You still want to keep those creative juices going. Well, just do something fun, whether that's flinging paint at a canvas or writing nonsense. Now, if you're in the middle of doing projects and you're stressed out, just take a step back, take a deep breath, and prioritize. It is a wonderful tool to learn how to prioritize. It has saved my behind more than once. Now, the next part of the physical branch of creative block is the fact that you can't do anything right. You've got all these ideas and all these inspirations and plot lines and paintings that you want to do, but every time you sit down and you start drawing or writing, nothing comes out right. Perspective is completely out of whack. The words aren't going together correctly, and you just give up. Now, from a professional standpoint, you've got to get through it. And from just a personal standpoint, you go through it all the time. Yes, it is very hard to get through this type of creative block, but it is probably the most rewarding of all of them. When you can't seem to do anything right, painting or writing wise, just keep on trucking. It's okay if you have to do 40 versions of it. You'll learn each time, and as long as you're learning, that's the most important part. Now, the last branch of a creative block is the burnout, or also what is known as the blank page syndrome. And it is probably the most frustrating, and it can also be the longest lasting. Burnouts or blank pages happen maybe for a day, a week, and go on for even years. But they are also the easiest to fix. So what happens with a burnout? Think of your creativity as a fuel tank. Every time that you do a piece or write something, you're taking out of that fuel tank. You're using up your inspiration fuel. So what happens when you run out? Well, that's when you experience a burnout. So the easiest way to fix this is through experiences, whether that's experiencing something new or doing a new spin on something. The best way to completely avoid a burnout is just by doing this over and over again. Every time you're taking out of your fuel tank, you need to be putting twice as much back into your fuel tank. So that way you are never hitting that burnout. So here's 5 tips that I have learned over all my years of doing art on how to deal with a creative block. Now, these can be used whether you're a musician, writer, or an artist. First thing, go outside. This is probably the easiest and it's free to do. Going outside will affect your mood. It helps stress reduce. It helps get you out of the environment that's making you upset or giving you emotional distress, and it gives you a new experience. Hiking, go walking in the park, go to a new part of town. The second thing that you can do is go to a museum. Now for artists, the best place to go is probably an art museum, just so you can see all the different ways people create art. But don't just go to an art museum. Go to any kind of museum. History, cultural, science museums. You can get inspiration from anywhere. History museums are one of my favorite places to go just because I can see how the past worked. Third, go to a gallery. Now, galleries are a little bit cheaper than museums. Most of them are free because galleries are normally also storefronts for that artist. And galleries, you can find them in almost every size of town or city. Now, the upside of going to a gallery is that you have a higher chance of meeting the actual artist behind all the work. You can talk to them, you can see how they get their inspiration, and plus you can kind of see a little bit more into their mind. Now, the fourth thing you can do is you can take a class. You might not have a whole lot of money, but going to workshops is a lot of fun. Plus, it's a new experience for you. You also come away with a new skill. Now, you don't have to go to just a writing or music or art workshop. Go to any kind of workshop. Cooking, science. You might even just go to something called a TED Talk, Those are really fun to do, and it gets you out of the house. My favorite workshop that I ever went to was a jewelry making class. Not stringing beads, but actually melting down stuff. That was more fun than I had ever had at a workshop. So number 5, and the last thing, is do a challenge. Now, you can get a little bit out of control and make the challenge so huge and almost impossible that it's almost like a master thesis project. Don't do that. Make it something small. It doesn't have to be your masterpiece. It just has to be something that you're doing on a daily basis. I suggest doing something for 30 to 50 days. 30 days if you just want to try it out, and 50 days if you want a really awesome project. So how do you make your own challenge? Just pick something that you want to do every single day. Whether that's draw something for 10 minutes every single day, or go outside and take a picture every single day. Or if you're a writer, write a short 5-minute story. Or create a character in a time frame that you could put into a story. At the end of your challenge, you can look back and you can see progress that has been made over your time frame. So I hope all of this information and these tips help you identify and overcome your next creative block, or one that you're already in. A creative block does exist. It's just how you overcome them. And when you overcome them, you will find that you can just keep on going. Until next time, keep on sketching, guys.